You could pass him. You could pass him. So skill certificates.
My only concern, so let's just say, please, so, right, but my point is, if every day you take fruits the first hour and before whatever it is, then you never see that's Chino. I couldn't be there for 2 periods, right? The whole 3 hours. You'll never see the project come to fruition. Write your notebook. Right? I mean,
Where do we start?
I don't know a way around that.
Yeah.
At least it's a change. It didn't look like that much of a change to me. Now my chair is too short. It was too tall. Now it's too short.
Perfect.
I moved it when we started.
Okay.
I'm just too heavy. So it just weighs down over time.
I now reconvene to the regular board meeting of the Board of Education at 7:09 p.m. with Blair, Fikes, Orozco, Na, and Cruz present. Before we begin, please silence all electronic devices and note that these proceedings are being recorded. Pat.
The board met in closed session from 3:45 to 7 p.m. regarding conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, and anticipated litigation, conference with labor negotiators, ACT and CSEA, and public employee discipline dismissal release. In closed session, the board adopted a statement of charges for the immediate suspension and dismissal of a permanent class certificated employee identified by employee number 473 with a vote as follows. Fikes, Hernandez Blair, Na, Orozco, Cruz, yes. In closed session on a motion by Na, seconded by Cruz, the board voted with the following vote of 3-2. Blair, no. Fikes, no. Na, yes. Cruz, yes. Arroyo, yes. Orozco, yes, to timely appeal and direct the superintendent to bring recommendations for alternative pro bono counsel to a special board meeting on March 7th March 7th in USDC Central District Case 5:14-CV-2336, Adverse Party, Freedom from Religion Foundation and Doe Plaintiffs, Substance of Litigation, Complaint for Injunctive Relief and Damages. No further action was taken, which requires public disclosure.
Thank you. Leading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight is Borba Elementary School teacher Patty Guras.
Hi, good evening. Welcome. Please stand so we can do the flag salute. And it turned out to be me. My name is Gerson Renderos, the principal in Borba. Thank you. Please put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please put your hands together and welcome our first presentation, the students from Borba Elementary School.
First song is called Calm It Down. It's from our second step program, and it's on a unit called Emotion Management. And the other song is called I Feel Proud, which we always like to sing. So we present to you our songs about feelings. Okay, show me the robot pose.
Your feeling brain takes holding. You could flip your lid. Stop, you got to think it through. Just calm it down like this. Stop and aim your feeling, calm down. 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 Every day we can have strong feelings, strong emotions that send us reeling. But there are steps we can take to calm down. These are the keys to turn things around. Just stop and name your feeling. Turn on your brain. Start thinking, not just feeling. Calm it down. Do some breathing. Calm it down. And some counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Calm it down. Use self-talk. I can do it, I can do it. And keep thinking. Stop, name what you're feeling now, and take some belly breaths. I can do it, I can do it. Count until I'm feeling down. Stop and aim your feeling, calm 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 down. Say someone wants when you talk your stuff. You can't think clearly, you're feeling rough. Just say stop, name what you're feeling. Take back your power, don't hit the ceiling. Stop, name what you're feeling now, and take some belly breaths. I can do it, I can do it. Count until I'm feeling down. Stop and aim your feeling, calm 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 down. I feel proud when I do something well. Makes me feel good, makes me feel swell. Shooting baskets, taking a test. I feel good when I've done my best. I do my best, yeah, yeah. Whoa, I do my best. Wherever I am, wherever I go, the best I am, I will always show. Wherever I go, whatever I do, the best I am, I will give to you. I give to you, yeah, yeah. Whoa, I give to you. I feel proud when I do something well. Makes me feel good, makes me feel swell. Shooting baskets, taking a test. I feel good when I've done my best. I feel good when I've done my best. Yeah, yeah, I do my best.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Great job.
Great job. Awesome, kids.
Okay, friends and family that would like to leave, you don't have to leave, but if you choose to leave, you can do so this time. Please exit if you'd like to.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Orozco, I know you hold the Richard Gerd Educational Hall of Fame close to your heart. Would you like to introduce the next presentation?
Thank you. I would appreciate that. So, the next presentation, and actually I'll probably go down to the podium so that I can have the students with me. So the next item is the Chino High School National Art Honor Society, and if I can have the students come on up. And I also understand teacher Daniel Cahill is here, and Mr. Melendez, their principal, is here, and please. So as you know, the Richard Gerd Educational Hall of Fame took a few years to get off the ground. And now that it is off the ground, it was named after Richard Gerd. And the group or the committee was hoping to get someone to bring it to life. And so that's what these students did, is they brought the Richard Gerd Educational Hall of Fame to life. And for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to take a look at the artwork that they, the collage actually that they came up with, you've got to take a look at it because it gives you the history of Chino, with Richard Gerd being one of our founding fathers from the Chino Valley. Now, what I want to ask is for each student to introduce themselves and then tell us what grade you're in, but then tell us what the process was, because that's some intricate artwork. And so, how'd you get to the final production?
Hi, I'm Alex Sarchev, and I'm the president of the National Art Honor Society. We worked on it as a group, and we really try to think of all the little individual parts that we can put in that people would recognize is part of Old Chino and Richard Gerd and all that he founded. Like the cornucopia we included to signify the abundance. You know, it's the horn of plenty, which is what Chino is, with all our dairies and...
Who else is here? Who else is joining us this evening?
Hi, my name is Jordan Ray. I'm the vice president of the National Honor Society at Chino High. Well, this was a really fun project. We took input from everyone else in the National Honor Society Club, and we really wanted to create something great for the city and to honor Mr. Gerd. And we wanted to include motifs that would represent the old Chino, like Alex said, so that people could look at the mural and really feel proud of their city and the history that it holds. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erica Aguila. I'm a senior, and I'm a member of the National Art Honor Society. And creating these things is really cool because we all have different types of art styles, and when we all come together to create one huge project, it's really cool because we all work together in creating everything.
Hi, my name is Montserrat Lupercio. I'm in 12th grade, and I am a member of the National Art Honor Society. And, well, just like Erica said, it was really fun putting everyone's ideas together and seeing how we can make something really great when everyone puts their mind to it, you know. And it was really nice, you know, seeing the mural and everything. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. I don't talk very much. But it was really nice, you know, to see how we could all make something very big and when we all just work together, and it's really cool. Yes. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cahill. Would you like to elaborate?
Well, we wanted to make something that, because the people that get voted into the Hall of Fame are some pretty amazing people. So we wanted to also interject something that's our credo, which is service, scholarship, and character. And so we put that on there as well because we think that that's important for the people that are voted onto the Hall of Fame, that they're examples of service, character, and also I'd like to acknowledge Erica Aguila for being a CIF champion wrestler and state. That's all.
We just want to say thank you. And if you ever want to see the artwork that young people produce at Chino High School and throughout the Valley, not just at the art show, all of the murals painted at Chino High School, all of the artwork in the entrance in the library is student work. Any of the murals that you see on campus are student work. And it's all driven by the passion that Mr. Cahill shares with his kids and brings it out of them at whatever artistic level they're at. So we're very fortunate as a district to have someone like Mr. Cahill who puts in the time and brings out that passion from our students. So thank you all very much.
Well, thank you. And for the students, we have a little token of appreciation for each of you. And I know that Karen Howie here is here from Supervisor Hagman's. I almost did a faux pas. From Mr. Hagman's office, and I know you wanted to present some certificates as well.
I'm very honored to be here tonight to represent the supervisor, to present these awards. You know, art is that language that everybody understands. It really is. When we see art, we all have those emotions, those feelings. And to do the history of Chino, I'm a resident of Chino. My husband's a city councilman, so I know he's thrilled that you've done it, representing Chino and their history. And it's going to be there. And when people walk by, they will feel your emotions, they will feel what you put into it, they will see it, and it'll be there forever. And I know that someday I'm going to keep your names, because I know someday I'm going to see one of you with your artwork at the Getty Museum, and I'm going to be able to say, I knew them when. So we'd like to present this certificate to you of recognition. And Erica, when you had to make a big decision, did you wrestle him for it? And if you'll please pass these on to the team. Thank you so much, and congratulations, all of you. We are so proud of you, and I know the supervisor is. Thank you.
One last thing that I want to share is that I truly appreciate that they captured the Richard Gerd within the collage, because that was one of the things that I continued to advocate for, was let's not forget Richard Gerd, because I actually went to Richard Gerd primary and elementary, and so that was something that I always wanted for us to not to forget, was to keep that history. So thank you once again, and let's give them an applause.
The next presentation scheduled is Dr. Preston Carr, Director of Alternative Education.
First, I'd like to thank the school board for this opportunity, starting with Mr. Andrew Cruz, our president, our vice president, Celia Roscoe, and the school board. It's going to be brief, so I also like to thank the cabinet for this opportunity, and my boss and acting superintendent, Dr. Norm Enfield. So I have a brief overview of the 2016 summer school. So the goal was to have 2 sites for summer school, Ruben S. Ayala High School and Don Lugo. However, there's going to be a catch-22 on that one because we just discovered that Don Lugo have some work going on this summer. So we went out to seek another school site. So we're sort of looking at Chino Hills High School, but we have to discuss that further with the school board. The registration is already set, and so that's already ready for the rollout. Here's our dates and hours and the time. And session 1, session 2 for each semester is already designed for the traditional summer school. Here's the criteria that the counselors follow for the summer school program. But this year, we expanded the program because of the 9th and 10th grade, looking at the NCAA new requirement. What is it, 2016, 2.3 are taking knee for student athletes. And they really pushing for the students to actually make up any grade prior to their 12th grade year. So we're going to just be proactive, and our goal is to offer these classes for the first time to our 9th and 10th graders this year. Here's the summer school course offerings for our traditional summer school. We also added the ELD program in there this year. Our goal to expand that, to offer additional classes. Buena Vista alignment is the same as ours, except for the second semester, 1 or 2 days difference there, but the hours are the same. Here's the course offerings at Buena Vista. Here's the junior high school summer school program, which we aligned that with the junior highs are at the 2 high schools that we're going to service this year. And so that program is aligned with the elementary program, which is at Walnut Elementary School. Here's our ELD Summer School Academy program. And so that program is basically from the LCAP funds, which is the goal for all elementary schools. They have like $4,500 to implement an EL Academy to assist our students that need help with closing the achievement gap and being more proficient with the English. And so all the schools are offering their own program on these sites. Aero Intersession program, there was a challenge to go out and find out how will we have an intersection with the year-round school. So we looked at track A, track B, and C. We're going to have a fall session and a spring session. And our track D matches up with our traditional summer school. So now here's a program that the Academic Enrichment Program, this is new, innovative, and it's a great opportunity for our students because for the first time, we're able to offer enrichment classes on ground. You know, typically our students go out to National University or BYU or they'll go to Chaffey or Cal State, and it's a fee. But with working with the international program, supporting this enrichment program on ground, they're actually funding this program, but it's a shared program. So this is the launch for this school year is our goal. And again, looking at the criteria, servicing these students, because we all know that our colleges and universities, a D is basically a failed grade. You can't enter our UC and CSU systems with a D. And the goal this year is for lessons learned is that we wanted to create a bell schedule because we learned that last year that, you know, what can we do to improve? So one thing that we wanted to improve was to create a bell schedule so students wouldn't sit in the same period for 4 hours. So we looked at, you know, I know the boss talked about every period. I'm like, well, I'm boots on the ground, so can we go with a block schedule and then have a nutrition break, go with a block schedule, take a lunch break, and then run the PM program in the afternoon and still have a break and then come back. So that would give the students a little bit of movement and also interact with other students all the way through the program. That concludes my 75 minutes of
Awesome. Ms. Blair.
Thank you for the page numbers, Dr. Carr.
I was warned.
Page 11, the ELD Summer Academy programs. Since they're at each of the school sites, do you happen to know the criteria for participation by our students?
It's basically following the LCAP plan, and Ms. Mary Sausalito, she's the one that really works with the schools for this program. So
I'll contact her.
Okay.
I'll ask.
Appreciate
Thank you. And then on page 13 for the elective enrichment program, Will DAL remain as one of the sites or no students at all?
No students at all. We're actually looking at Chino Hills High School as the alternative site because the challenge is if we look at one of our middle schools, we're lacking the facilities and you know, to offer PE and some of the activities we need access to a gym and the pool and all the different facilities at the school sites.
So DAL will be off limits over
Yes.
the summer. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Ms. Fikes?
On page 13, where you're talking about the elective enrichment, are those, excuse me, are those classes going to be 5-unit classes for CVUSD students?
That's a very good question. Yes, we have like the SAT class, the I think
The reason I asked Dr. Carr is because it's only 3 hours of instruction rather than 4 hours of instruction
Right.
for the morning kids.
Very good. And because what we're looking at is our AP and honors classes at the AM session, but if you look in the electives session in the afternoon, they kind of align with our traditional classroom instructions. And the requirement was to have, when we offer honors and AP courses, that we needed more time and we added more days. However, the elective classes, it doesn't take as much time to complete that coursework.
We don't have a required number of hours in summer classes?
No, it's traditionally, if you look at a school calendar, 180 days, so it's like 90 hours. So you kind of look at, it takes the students anywhere from 75 to 90 hours to complete coursework. And I think we have built in here about maybe like 90, 105 hours or something like that. I have to redo the calculations. But I remember doing the math, and I think my math was pretty close.
And I thank you for your brevity.
Mr. Na?
Yeah, Dr. Carr, on page 5.
Running out of clicks. Okay.
Yeah, it's an excellent idea that we're giving a second chance for our students. But will the students and both parents will be notified of this opportunity for makeup?
Absolutely. We're waiting for tonight's meeting and for the board to give us the go-ahead on this. And on March the 10th, we'll meet with all the counselors and administration for the launch of this program.
Excellent. Thank you.
Ms. Orozco?
Well, going back to page 13, I just want to say thank you for offering these classes, the Academic Enrichment Summer Instruction Program, for free, because actually my son has to take a class because his schedule's impacted with the other things that he does. And so it's nice when it says free. So thank you.
You know, what I find intriguing, looking at that picture, you have AP courses. Is this the first time offering students who need a second chance, let's say if they fail or their courses are impacted, that they have an opportunity to take a course? I assume because of college.
On ground, it is our first time. Typically, our students will go to National University or Cal State Long Beach for a fee. However, this year our goal is to offer those courses on ground, and the funding source is coming from the international program. So we're bringing the two groups together and share those resources.
You said it international, so the funding's coming from the international sources?
Right. It's designed that we'll have 15 to 1 of students in the Chino Valley Unified School District and 10 to 12 students, so no more than 25 or 28 to 1 students in the classroom. So it still matches up with our traditional criteria. So each week the students come in, so the funds from that will compensate the teacher and to run the program. So that's the plan. Looking at a projected budget on that, it looks like it should work.
And that term you use, enrichment, enrichment classes, what does that actually mean?
Right, that's a very good question. Because traditionally, we've always said the word remedial. And the government has always funded monies for remedial classes. However, the goal of the government now is to offer multiple pathways for all students, including honors, students who are taking honors and AP classes. So that's why we use the term enrichment, because there are honors and AP courses.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
And I have a final comment.
Mr. Na.
And I have a final comment. Dr. Carr, truly believe you're the bright light in our school district. You just make things happen at special ed. So thank you so much for your hard work. Thank you.
Okay, but I really can't take the credit. I don't work
Yeah.
alone. Everybody on this team has assisted with this project, and
Yeah,
I really
appreciate
appreciate
you.
the support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, you're welcome.
Interesting. And wrapping up the evening presentation is Dr. Jeanette Chen, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services.
Well, good afternoon, and Ms. Fikes, I hope I'm quick, but I don't know. I can't make any promises. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have a presentation around LCAP. This isn't the first presentation that you're going to hear. You're going to hear a few more over the school year. You should have a copy of the PowerPoint, and then you also have a handout that has, it says Actions and Services, and it has color-coded blue, orange. Do you guys see that? You don't have that in front of you?
No. A different one?
No, it looks like this.
No.
Cabinet, I saw that you guys had a copy. Did you have a copy that looked like this? No?
Oh, so
No, just your PowerPoint.
Okay. Okay, we're ready. So again, this is going to be the first LCAP presentation that you're going to hear. We're going to be talking again to you next month around LCAP, but I just wanted to give you some information about the process that we've been going through. We've been working diligently on the LCAP, and so I just wanted to remind you that the LCAP is a plan that we have to put together annually. The state requires this as far as being our strategic plan for the district. And so really, I don't know how much information you've gotten in the past around LCAP, but I wanted to give you a quick overview. So the LCAP plan development really looks at two things. One is an annual report that we have to do. So we have to look at this current school year. What are we doing in 15-16? And then at the same time, we're putting together the plan for next year for 16-17. So it's a plan that we're doing simultaneously, so it gets a little bit convoluted because people don't always understand that what we have to report to the state is information about our current year, and then that helps us make determinations about what we should put in the plan for the following school year. So with the annual report, one of the things that we look at is what are we doing? And one of the things that we've done differently this year is we've tried to include a lot more stakeholders, and I'll talk to you in about 5 minutes what that looks like. But what we've done so far is what we looked at our current LCAP to see what are our goals, what is it that our students need, what is it that we want for our students, and then we looked at our data points. And what we determined was that the data that we had in the LCAP sometimes was very clear, and the data is very measurable, and then some of the data that was written in the current LCAP wasn't as measurable. So what we had to do is we had to go back and look at what are the things that we're doing, and how are we going to measure those things. And so we looked at some data points that we added to the LCAP. And so that's what we're going to share with you later on in just a minute. One of the other things that we've been doing is analyzing that data to determine whether what we're currently doing is effective. So we wrote these things in the LCAP, and we invested either human resources or financial resources. And so our job is to make sure that what we're investing our money and our people in is actually working, and that's what the data analysis comes in. after we do that data analysis, we have to come together and we have to have conversations about whether those things are working and whether we need to modify any of our actions or services for the following school year. Once we look at that, then we also look at our goals. So right now we have 7 goals, and that's what you currently have in front of you, the packet that you just got. So as a district, we have those 7 goals that align to our 8 state priorities. And when we go through the process of reviewing whether things are working or not, we also look at whether those goals continue to be our goals. And so that's another piece of the process that we have to do. And once, again, we look at our goals, and if we say the 7 goals are still viable, then we say, are we going to continue with the same actions and services? And if we are, we put those in the plan. And if we're going to modify them, then we modify that in the plan. So that's the next process. And then once we say these are the things we're going to do for the following school year, then we have to develop data points again to measure whether what we're doing is actually working. Okay, so it's kind of a cyclical process. It's not something that is a one-time kind of deal that we look at it. We constantly have to look at this. When you think about the continuous learning process, this is what we're doing. We're going through a process where we're looking at what are we doing, how do we measure it, how do we analyze the data, is it working, if it's not, how do we change it, do we need to change our goals, and then we come to you with the final recommendation for the next year's LCAP. So I know it's a process, it's a year-long process, and I wanted to show you kind of the differences that we've done this year compared to the previous couple of years with LCAP. So I know in the past we've been inclusive and we try to talk to our stakeholder groups. We talk to some parents and we talk to some of our teachers and we talk to administrators. But when I first got here, Mr. Joseph said, "I'm going to crown you the LCAP queen." And I said, okay. And so being, again, facilitating this process, I think it's very important that we're inclusive and that we're comprehensive with the process. And so one of the things that we've done differently is we've taken kind of the show on the road. So the principals have had stakeholder meetings at their sites to gather input about not just what they want for the district, but what they want for their school sites, because every school has specific needs. And so the principals had meetings with their stakeholders and they gathered input that way. Just recently, I've gone out and I met with our classified staff. I think to a certain degree, they were included last year, but I feel that we really needed to hear their voices because, again, they're part of our staff and they make things happen at the schools and they make things happen for our students, and so we needed to hear their voice. So I met with representatives of CSEA to get their input. I just recently went to ACT's executive board, and I'm going to be going back later on this month to get input from the teacher reps. So I'm going to be meeting with their rep councils, again, to get input from the teachers. I've met with principals, I've met with assistant principals to get the administrative perspective on what they feel they need. We have an LCAP parent committee, and we had a meeting back in November to talk to them about the process. We're going to be meeting with them again next week now to look at the goals and to look at the data and to talk about actions. And we'll be meeting again with them in April. We also have our DLAC committee that we go to get input. And this is, the DLAC is a committee that's required by the state that we get input from them. And the reason why this committee is a requirement is because the state gives us supplemental funding for our underserved subgroups, and one of those underserved subgroups is our English language learners. And so that's a requirement that we have to go to them and get input. And then also we are going, obviously, to our parents to get information from them. So what I guess I wanted to stress is that we're trying to really go out and reach out to all our stakeholders to get information. But I think the thing that's critical, or that's a little bit different this year, is that we've also included our students. And so what we've done is, over the past few weeks, we've gone to Ayala, Don Lugo, Chino Hills High, and we still need to go out to Buena Vista. And we've had focus group discussions with our students. And I'm sure you all know kids tell you everything. So they've give us a lot of really good information. And I think what we're going to do with that information, obviously, is combine it with all of the other input that we got from our stakeholders, and then we'll determine our priorities. So it's not one group gets something in the LCAP, another group gets something in the LCAP. It's really about bringing all of that information, establishing priorities, and then bringing that forth in the LCAP. So again, I think the process has been one where we've tried to include people, where we've tried to get input from them. And it's something that I think is really important, because this is the work of the district. And when you look at the LCAP, there's everything in there. There's things about teaching and learning. There's things about how we support our students with interventions. There's items in there about health care, about our hope centers, about safety. So really it is a comprehensive plan. It's the work of the district. And another thing I think that we've done a little bit different this year is we've been more inclusive as far as who's looking at this as a process. And so what we've done is we are working with our CIIS directors and the directors from Ed Services as an entire group. And they're analyzing the data. They're collecting the data. They're seeing their work in the LCAP, so that we're holding each other mutually responsible for that work, and that we're also breaking down some of the silos in our departments by having that communication. So that's kind of the process that we're doing. What we're going to share tonight is baseline data. Again, I mentioned at the very beginning that some of the metrics that we had in the LCAP were very broad. They didn't really specify what numbers we needed to look at. So what we went back to do is look at numbers, and what you'll see today is baseline information. Okay, now I'm going to hand it off again, because we did work together as a team. I'm going to hand it off to Julian Rodriguez, who's going to share a little bit more about how we put this plan together, or how we're working to put the plan together.
Good evening. So in our attempt to organize all of this information, we knew first and foremost that we don't want to just throw out a bunch of numbers, a bunch of percentages. We know that we want it to tell a story. And so we, with the help of a lot of people, we put together these informative, this is the infographic approach here, okay? And so this is totally custom to CVUSD. And we know that first and foremost, again, we want these numbers to tell a story, because these percentages and these numbers, they really are part of a larger picture, okay? And we're committed to each part of that, each smaller part that becomes the bigger picture. And so when you look at this, we know that the state, as Dr. Chan pointed out, the state has these three overarching themes: conditions of learning, pupil outcomes, and then pupil engagement, okay? And within each of those themes, we have these 8 state priorities that are spread throughout that. And you can see that along the state of California right here, these 8 state priorities. And so we as a district have created goals that are aligned not only with those state priorities, but with the overarching themes. And so the way that we've broken this up is tonight we're going to report on goals 1, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? And so next time that we come together, we're going to report on the remaining goals. But goals 1, 5, 6, and 7 really are the support that we provide for all of our students. And then the other goals that we're going to talk about the next time are how we deliver those supports. So we have conditions of learning, pupil outcomes, and then engagement. So the larger picture are these demographics. And so that you see in nearly 85 square miles, we have 35 schools. Some of those schools are California Distinguished Schools, National Blue Ribbon School. We even have a California Gold Ribbon School. In that 85 square miles, those 35 schools service 28,124 students. We have over 1,250 teachers, nearly 600 support staff, and almost 90 administrators. For each of those 28,124 students, we have just as many stories, just as many experiences, and we want to value each and every one of those. So we do have to look at some of our subgroups, some of the ethnic breakdown, and that's what you see right here. And then the state has said we want to focus on some groups that have been traditionally or historically either underserved, okay, or underrepresented in the larger picture. And so that's why we have this breakdown right here. These three groups are foster youth, our English learners, and then the students who qualify for free or reduced lunch constitute a subgroup that the state says is our unduplicated count. So what we're going to do with goals 1, 5, 6, and 7 again are describe that support. Basically, what happens when what we have in place for the students when they get here. And then when we meet again next time, we'll talk a little bit more about how we deliver that. So with that, I want to hand it over to Don Jones, and he's going to talk about Goal 1, which falls under our basic services, okay?
Thank you. In your handout for the actions and services, Goal 1 and Goal 5 can be identified with the blue and the green, and I will speak to you on both of these goals. Goal 1 identifies basic services that are afforded to teachers and students, and as Dr. Chin said, we are only establishing baseline data with this infographic report today. A total of 1,258 teachers, of which 13 of them have some form or fashion of misassignment, which equates to 1.03% of our total teacher population, which I might want to point out that that percentage of 1.03 is significantly lower than the state and the county averages of for misassignments of teachers. When one thinks about 21st century learning, the first thing that comes to mind is technology. And in our schools right now, 25% of our facilities have fully functional wireless capabilities, with the others coming on board within the next school year. Also, we have a process of every computer device that's in our district is refreshed every 5 years. And this year alone, 1,634 devices have been refreshed. We have a technology pilot with teachers involved in our technology committee members, and 17 of our teachers are actually piloting various devices and program software to determine its functionality in the classroom. Curriculum and materials, 100% of our instructional materials are available to all of our students and teachers. We have 100% availability to the teachers. And then in the facilities, we have 100% of our facilities using the facilities inspection tool protocol meet the good or the exemplary categories. Then in Goal 5, which is the green section of your actions and services handout, it focuses on the district's ability to provide ongoing and timely communication. And once again, this graphic is only establishing baseline data. And with communication to the community and to our parents, the best form of communication that we have readily available is our web page or our website. We have had 1,388,819 visits on our website this year thus far. Additionally, our parents have at their access the real-time student data through the process of using the Aries Parent Portal. Currently, 28.1% of our parents are using that resource. And then with parent participation, we have had 3 LCAP forms thus far this year that parents have been informed about our LCAP process. And there are currently 17 ongoing parent academies where parents get information in how to be more of a support to their student and how to partner better with our district. So I would now like to bring Mr. Dan Sosa to the podium, and he will share with you an overview of the next two goals that are in this presentation.
I have to bring the microphone down a little bit. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Good evening, board and cabinet, community. I have the pleasure of speaking on goals 6 and 7. The corresponding colors of these goals are gray and goldenrod. They correspond to the sheet that you have in front of you. So goals 6 and 7 are broad indicators of conditions of learning, which would be goal 6, and student engagement, which is goal 7. These last two goals really round out what we call the circle of support for students. That is goals 1, 5, 6, and 7. Those provide the supports for students, where goals 2, 3, and 4 that we'll speak of later really are about the learning and the conditions that go on within the classroom and the school building. So for goal 6, let's focus on goal 6 for a moment. To provide a world-class education for our students, we actually have to get them to come to school. That is a criteria. Students are more likely to come to school if they know that the education that's provided is relevant to them, that they feel connected to school, that they also feel supported when they get to that school building. Well, as you can see, our attendance figures really speak to that. We have a very high attendance rate at 97%, which we know meets the state goal, and we are on track to exceed our state goal here in the near future. We also know that we have a low chronic absenteeism. Both of those metrics really are brought about because of the world-class education we have in our buildings, but also the supports that we offer for students and families that are having attendance challenges. Some of those supports, as you can see here, we have home visits plus SARB meetings. So we have teams of staff and community members that really assist our parents and our students with making sure that they can rise above those challenges and get to school every day so that we can provide them the world-class education. We also have an attendance recovery program that is operated out of our department up at the AEC that helps students be able to recover those absences on Saturdays. Not only does it help them to bridge that gap of what they've missed at school, but it also helps to recover a little bit of ADA, which then goes back into the system and helps us to be able to provide programs and services to our students. Well, really the goal within these 13 years is getting our students ready for graduation and on to college and career. We have the highest graduation rate of all of the large school districts in our county. There are many school districts in our county, but there really only are a few that I would consider large, 23,000 students or above. For those districts, Chino Valley has the highest attendance rate of the large school districts. And the reason I will highlight that is because large school districts have very interesting challenges. They have a lot of moving parts going on, and so we really do a great job at getting our students to the finish line and past. We know that the county rate is 79% and the state rate is 81%, so you can see that Chino Valley Unified well surpasses those marks. Part of the support system that we have in place to support students to get to that mark are the credit recovery programs. We have over 1,250 students that take advantage of our credit recovery programs, and we have over 1,000 students who are involved in intervention programs at the secondary level alone with Math 180 and Read 180. Finishing up, we'll talk about safe and secure environments in Goal 7. Once students come to school, they feel supported. We need to make sure that they feel safe. It's our duty to make sure that every student that walks through our school doors and every staff member that walks through our doors is safe and secure. We have the lowest suspension rate of any large school district in our county at 3.3% and an extremely low, almost infinitesimal expulsion rate at 0.1%. That speaks to the many, many different programs and services, what we technically call other means of correction, but I think what we'll call different pathways and supports to support our students who sometimes have difficulty within our schools. We know that parents and community are a large part of having a school feel safe and secure. We have a fantastic history of having parent and community forums that we hold annually in the district to help to make sure that our parents and community know some of the distractions and the hazards that face their students every single day so they can help their students to overcome. Well, what we presented tonight are goals 1, 5, 6, and 7. As I said, they round out that circle of support that we provide for students. There are many important pieces of this educational puzzle that we have here in the form of teachers, materials, technology, parent involvement, and supports that keep our students engaged and actively involved in our system. Next time we come and speak to you, we will talk to you about the learning conditions that are going on in our classrooms in goals 2, 3, and 4. So to finish up, I'll invite Dr. Chen to come back up and conclude our presentation.
Okay, so again, this is just the first time that we come to you. I'm going to just explain to you a little bit more about what our thoughts are in presenting the rest of the information. Like you've heard many, many times, we're going to come back next month and go over goals 2, 3, and 4. And then what we'll be doing is we're going to be meeting again with groups of people to develop a draft of the LCAP. And in that draft will be information about the annual report. So what are we doing this year and how is that working? And then also we're going to be drafting actions and services, data, and money for next school year. When we come to you, I believe it's in, I think it's the first board meeting in June. We'll be presenting that draft LCAP plan to you so that you have some time to look at that. And also at that meeting, we're going to have a public hearing. The public will have an opportunity to look at the draft. We're going to post that on the website. They'll have the opportunity to give us suggestions and then also have the opportunity to come with input at that public hearing, that very first board meeting we have in June. Later on, I believe it's the second meeting in June, then we'll come to you and ask for a recommendation for approval. We have to have an approval for the LCAP, whether it be with revisions, and so that's why we're giving ourselves a little bit of time. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time, it's a 2-week window, but that's kind of how the state stipulates that to happen. We have to have it, again, to the county by July 1st with an approval. I had a question the other day when I met with one of the groups, and they said, well, who makes the final decision on the LCAP? And the answer is you as board members do. We consult with groups, we get input from groups, and we put that information together, but you all as board members make that final decision. The only person or the only group of people who can change any of those recommendations or that approval is the county. Once we send your LCAP with an approval to the county, they look at it and they determine whether it's a viable plan, and they'll then pass it on to the State Board of Ed for approval. And if they feel at that point that there's some things that need to be revised, they'll send it back to the district and ask us to revise within a certain time frame before they send it back to the State Board of Ed. So that's typically what the process looks like. So I wanted just to inform you so that you don't sit at the dais in June and say, this is the first time that we're looking at the plan, or how does this process work? And so that's what the process is. And again, we're trying our very best to do things differently so that people feel like they really truly do have a voice, because we're all investing our hard work and our time and our energy and our money in all of the work that we see in the LCAP. And so it's really important that we hear people and that people feel like they have the opportunity to express their opinions. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to share, and I know that you saw Dan, Dawn, and Julian speak. I asked them to present, but they're not the only people who've been involved in this. So we had, in goal 1, Bev Beamer was kind of our steward around that goal. So she collected the data, she analyzed the data, and then she brought it forth. For goal 5, we had Ophelia Verdugo over in student support services, and she was kind of the steward of that goal. For goal 6, we had Stephanie Johnson, and she was a steward for that goal. So we had, again, all of our directors are really integral in analyzing the data, collecting the data, and then sharing it with each other. And so, again, it's an attempt to be more comprehensive. Okay? So at this point, we will entertain any questions, and then I'm going to ask our team, because I have all the data here, but since they're the ones that are more intimately working with some of this, they may have better answers.
Okay. Ms. Blair?
Thank you, Dr. Chen. We need page numbers on
I realized that when you talk to Dr. Carr.
But it would be your slide 3, so page 3 of the PowerPoint. And you indicated that you were still going to meet with student focus groups at Buena Vista. But are we including CVLA and the Alternative Education Center?
You know, when originally I had put the proposal of which student groups to look at, that was, we wanted to look at a representative group. And so when we've gone to the comprehensive high schools, we've asked for students who are special ed students, students who are English language learners, students who are foster youth, homeless, so that we have a representative group. When we look at CVLA, the groups don't necessarily fit that representation, and so we thought Buena Vista had, because they have more kids,
Right.
that we can pull a better representation there.
Okay. But what about our Alternative Education Center? I mean, there's many students there as well. Are we not going to include them?
We can. My goal was to get all the input done by the end of the month, so I can work with Dr. Carr and try to schedule something with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then page 4, I know was Mr. Rodriguez's slide, but maybe you have the information. He shared 3 oversight goals for this specific page. He started off with conditions of learning, and then there were 2 more, and he was too quick for me. I didn't write them down.
They're here, the pupil outcomes.
Oh,
and
that's where he pulled them
engagement.
from.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for the subgroups, the free and reduced lunch at 43.2%, that's this school year? That's our data for this school year? Thank you. On the next page, that was Mr. Jones. When we state that we're providing 100% instructional materials available to students and teachers, what exactly do we mean by that?
I believe, okay, there's a couple things. One is Williams sufficiency at the beginning of the year has to be done. I believe it's by October. And there's a process by which, I believe, Dr. Enfield, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Media Center goes through the process of gathering information from the sites to determine whether the sites have their core instructional materials. The principals certify that, send that into the Media Center, and then that's how we get that percentage.
So when you say instructional materials, it's core instructional materials?
Yes.
Like spelling books?
No, they're adopted instructional materials. So they're like textbooks really is what Williams defines as core instructional materials.
So only what is included or required under the Williams Act, not all the other extras.
Right. Right.
Thank you. And yeah, I think that was my last question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Dr. Chen, when I spoke to students, and I'm glad that you're including students at this time, and I think that should be our foremost goal because we're here to serve them. They're constantly telling me that they needed more math tutors, just for your info, and counselors or advisors that would pay personal attention to them. That's what they're missing. And as the instructional materials goes, let's go to the teachers, because they know what they need and the classroom is needed. Then our projection and what the government tells us to do. Because if teachers don't have the right materials, our kids cannot be taught right. So thank you for your paying close attention to teachers. Thank you.
Ms. Fikes.
Dr. Chen, I have a couple of questions. First, on page 4, I was surprised at the number of administrators that were listed as 88, and I leaned over to Dr. Enfeld and said, 88? That's we've got more than that at the sites. Where? And he said, well, he thought that maybe that was just site administrators. The district administrators are not included in this. Is that correct?
What was? They're not included in there. Yeah, you're right. Site administrators.
So why aren't they? Since they're part of our total picture.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Okay, so well, something to consider.
Yeah.
My next question is on, you had indicated that you've been having a lot more site meetings, taking it on the road, you said. And so I was assuming that that would have included parents. Did it not include parents?
It did. Actually, it was targeted at parents.
So then I don't understand on page 5 where it says LCAP forums only 3. I mean, if you had it at 35 sites, we should have had 35 possibilities.
Right. Well, the forums I consider to be district-wide open meetings for everyone, and the site-specific stakeholder meetings were targeted specifically for parents, and the principals held those meetings.
So shouldn't we, though, as we are looking at this as an assessment of how we did, shouldn't we include that?
We can add that as a metric.
Because I think it's important. I mean, to me, as a board member, it makes me proud to think that we are having that many meetings on site. And I mean, I'm sure there are some principals who had 2 or 3 meetings, not just one. And I think that more accurately reflects what we're doing.
Yeah, we can add that, definitely.
Okay.
Like I said, part of going through this process was we identified some metrics that we needed to add. When you go back and you look at, and I don't know that you want to read the LCAP all over again, but when you look at it, some of these metrics are not included in there. And that was our job to do, was to go back and say, what can we gather that's measurable? And that's what we try to do. But yeah, we can add that.
Okay. And then my last question on goal number 7, safe and secure school environments. And I was going to bring this up in my closing comments tonight, but we received a letter from a student at Ayala talking about the school is not locked. And I get that suspensions and expulsions look at safe school environment, but I do think we have a few other concerns in our district that relate to safe school environment. And I get it. I mean, how do you let kids come in late if the door is locked? I mean, there are a myriad of issues, but I'm hoping that when we're talking about safe and secure school environments, we're not just talking about suspensions and expulsions.
Right. The state requires us to look at suspensions and expulsions as metrics, but that's just the quantitative data. That's why we're going out and talking to the students to gather that qualitative data. And you're right. Quite frankly, now that we've talked to 4 groups of high school students, what they're saying to us is that they feel safe on campus with each other, so they feel like there's a support system and that they're not really feeling unsafe or intimidated by their own peers. What they feel unsafe about, quite frankly, is what the outside coming in. So they feel like some of the campuses are too open. Some of the campuses, have a lot of open access, and so that's where the safety concerns are coming from the students. But they do feel safe with their peers.
Ms. Orozco.
First of all, thank you. Always going off on me. Thank you for the presentation and for everyone's input and hard work. I really appreciate the attempt to include more people, because I'm a firm believer of communication, and unless I communicate with you or you with me, we're just going to make assumptions of what the other wants or needs, and so I think that's a really important part, and I appreciate that. The other part is parent engagement, 28%, 28.1. How was that measured? That was Dawn, I think. That.
Yeah.
How was
And
that
I'll
measured?
have Bev look, talk to that because that's around the parent portal for Aries.
Good evening, Ms. Roscoe. So what we did is we can analyze each parent that has an active account by their student. So I'm going to use you as an example. If you have a student at Ayala High School, at Canyon Hills, and let's say Eagle Canyon, it would be counted as a percent of each of those students because we would want to count your Ayala student and your account there. So it's a ratio of the enrollment at a school and the number of active parent accounts at that school, and then totaled for the district. So there is a very small chance if you had a family of 8 that had 8 accounts at 3 different levels, that there's a little bit of, but that's out of the 28,000 plus students, and we would want each of those to have a parent account.
And so, because I'm part of the 28%. So the thing that I've always advocated for is to have, to be able to have all my son's classes in there. And so could that be a part of why, because it seems low, 28%, especially when I get, that's my microphone, I get so many parent comments about not using it because they don't have the classes on there. There's only like 1 or 2 of their students. And so could that be a reason? 28 just seems low to me.
It's absolutely could be a contributing factor, but you could have an active account. And so let's say if I was in the classroom last year and your child had me last year, you could have an active account. And then I'll use Mr. Jones. If you have your child has Mr. Jones and he's not using grades online, your account would still be considered active, even though in a high school situation, your child has 4 to 6 teachers and 2 do not utilize the gradebook or utilize information. If you have an account with any one of those teachers, that's an active account.
Oh, so it's parents.
And we can provide you that data by school if you'd like to see that.
Parents, come on. And finally, I just want to say that on page, it was the last page, I believe, with goals 6 and 7, I think that really highlights our district as to the great things that we're doing as a district. And somewhere on the website, we ought to post all that information because it's good information. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chen. You know, the LCAP is moving forward, and it's focusing on improvement and progress. And, you know, we do know that the initial goals have changed from its beginning stages and now. Mm-hmm. So that's great because we recognize we can improve. And another example, for the last 2 years, we've had LCAP meetings that were at specific sites, but now we're bringing it at the local site where there's more input from parents and students. So, you know, we've came a long ways, and, you know, this is a great district with great people, so good job.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Steve Ball, ACT.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Ball. I'm a 6th grade teacher at E.J. Marshall. Tonight, I represent the 1,354 members of ACT, teachers, counselors, and nurses. Before I begin, I'd like to make a quick announcement. Up on the dais, you should have invitations to a Common Core Summit that ACT is hosting on March 19th. We'd love the board members to stop by. It's on a Saturday, but that's our idea of fun. So come on by. We expect some really great training. This is what teachers are doing on their own time, just honing our skills, making it a little bit better for our students. I also have to, with a heavy heart, announce that yesterday we lost one of our excellent teachers. Glenmead teacher Olga Rodriguez passed away yesterday. So it's a tough time at Glenmead, tough time for the students and the teachers, and we ask that you keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Well, this year, our district is going to great lengths to get input from all stakeholders on next year's LCAP, and with good reason. It looks like next year will be a record year for our district. We're seeing the largest increase in funding that we've seen in many years. Of course, that leads to the greatest spending increase in recent history. Well, teachers are having a record year of their own. You see, when the district implements new plans and programs, regardless of the cost, it's really the teachers that take on the extra burden of implementation. The planning, presentations, and PowerPoints all may originate here, but it is always the teachers that take the extra weight upon their shoulders to make sure that it all really works back where the rubber hits the road. And so we find ourselves working harder and working longer. As a result, this year, our teachers are putting in a record number of hours beyond our contract day. Drive by any of our campuses at 5:30 in the evening or on a weekend, you'll see we're still there, working hard to make your vision a reality. And it isn't easy, but it's important. And it's not mandatory, but it's vital. We do it because that's really what it takes to help our students succeed. And we do it because we have to make sub-plans so we can go to tomorrow's training. And we do it because we're writing our own language arts curriculum. We don't have a textbook. We do it because we're on the front lines of education. You see, in the end, for education to occur, you only need two things: a student and a teacher. Education can happen without a school board, and without a district office, and without programs. But it will not survive without teachers. And so we do it. And we do it because we've never seen a graduation speaker get up and thank all the programs, plans, and PowerPoints. They thank the teachers, the counselors, and the nurses. And so the record number of hours, unpaid hours, keeps increasing. It's our record year. In fact, we surveyed our members and found that teachers are giving an average of 14.12 hours a week of their own unpaid time to make our students successful. Multiplied by our membership, that's 19,121 unpaid hours a week. Times 36 weeks. And teachers are donating 688,383 hours this year alone. And when you monetize that, your teachers are donating $29,937,811.52. So it's with great pride that we present you with this check. A gift from ACT, but a reminder of the loyal, hardworking, unselfish teachers that make this district what it is. Now, unfortunately, it's not a real check. It's not real money, but it certainly represents real value. And although you can't take it to the bank and cash it, we're here tonight to remind you that in fact, you cash it every day. We're teachers. We're not greedy people. Quite the opposite. And we certainly don't want to lose momentum. So we ask that you settle this year's contract in a way that recognizes and respects the value that your teachers bring to our schools every single day. Thank you.
Bye.
Denise Oro, CSEA.
That's a hard act to follow. I got somebody's clicker up here. Is this yours? Good evening. I just wanted to say about and comment about the Anna Borba students that performed tonight. And we have a lot to learn from those students, especially the songs that they sing. I just wanted to reiterate what I spoke about at our last school board meeting. Our district offers the best sports programs, drumline programs, band programs, theater programs, and other clubs to our students. It is shown by the accomplishments of our students. Drumline and band are constantly in first place. Our basketball teams and football teams and CIF, as well as other sports. Last week, Dr. Chin came to CSEA's chapter meeting and gave a presentation on LCAP to our members, as well as received input. I want to thank her for coming to the membership and asking for our input. Very much appreciative. I'm excited to say that after 5 years of asking for the district to send our instructional aides to attend the CSEA-sponsored Para-Educator Conference, the district is sending 4 this year to attend. So thank you to Dr. Chen, because she helped a lot, and the approval from Mr. Joseph for sending 4 of our instructional aides in their special ed. So I'm hoping that next year we can increase. I had 25 to 30 people respond, and this conference is so well received. And we had one manager attend a couple of years ago. They said it's the best training that any of our employees would benefit by attending. And our students should be able to get that kind of help. So I'm hoping that you will keep that in consideration for next year. Again, I'm asking for more custodial help for Aero. There are only 3 custodians on paper to properly clean and maintain the year-round school. However, 1 employee works for the city of Chino half the time. Therefore, we only have 2.5 custodians to maintain that Aero, okay? And these custodians are supposed to service the students, staff, and parents and maintain the school. Board, I'm asking for your help. The school has over 1,100 students now, with more to come, and they have increased their classroom by placing portables on campus as well. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yvette Farley, Champ.
Good evening. Have just a few things that I'd like to share out. Student Government Day, administrative team and the students, high school students, was a day well worth spent. It got a lot of positive feedback. Wanted to thank Shetta for her attending our school. We had a great time there. Like Dr. Chen said, a lot of your administrators not only held one meeting, but about 4 or 5, several sites had about 4 or 5 LCAP meetings to get as much parental involvement and input during those presentations. And if it took 5, we held 5. On Monday, CHAMP held its first speaker event. We had David Culberhouse give a very powerful presentation on really the insight. He gave us insight on the skills that our students are going to need in the future, and really the impact on the shift in education that we'll be experiencing, if not now, that we're already experiencing. Many, I want to thank the administrators and aspiring administrators who did attend. Many left with a very eye-opening and very thought-provoking experience, just really questioning how are we going to lead in the future? It's our hope to bring them back because it was just a touch and it left everyone wanting more. So we are planning a couple of more sessions and based on his calendar. I'd like to thank district administrators and our community members and our district office people who attended Literacy Day. Several elementary sites held Literacy Day either yesterday or sometime this week. And so we really appreciate seeing the whole community supporting that event. And then I'd like to just end with the thought that we have worked really hard, and I think everyone in this room, whether you're a community member, a teacher, a district officer, administrator, classified staff, we get up and go to work every day for our students. And we all work hard, and I like to make sure that I do acknowledge that it doesn't, again, take one group, one organization, one person in this field, that we all work together to make sure that we are providing our students the best education that we can provide them in our community. So I want to make sure that I thank every group member that does that every day. So thank you.
Thank you. Art Bennett, Chino Hills City Council.
Thank you very much. It's always a privilege and an honor to come before you. I would like to first say I'm going to cut my remarks very brief tonight because we have some speakers that I know have some very important things to bring to this board. It is such a blessing to watch the children in their showcases, the Borba children, the high school students that are becoming acclaimed artists. This school district is doing things right. When you listen to the LCAP presentation and the summer school program, you are thinking outside the box. You are not sitting back on your laurels. You are putting things into place that will continue to make this school district the great school district it is. And you know, we always kidding around and say that it takes a village. Well, teachers, you are so well appreciated. I have 2 grandsons that are raised and went all the way through this school district, and they're turning out to be very fine young men. Largely in part because of all of the influence that they had, the positive influence they had, sitting in your classrooms and hearing what you had to say. So keep up the good work and continue the long, hard fight. Now, I would not be the mayor of Chino Hills if I didn't get a chance to brag a little bit. For those of you who have maybe been living under a rock, you realize that the accomplishments of our students, not only the ones that were just mentioned about the fine arts and everything else, we have some pretty great student athletes in our community, and they are a part of the school district, but they just so happen to be in Chino Hills. This Saturday at the Honda Center, the Chino Hills varsity basketball team is going to be in the finals for the CIF Section 2, or excuse me, Open Division, playing Sierra Canyon. They are currently and have been for about 5 weeks #1 in the nation. I believe their record right now is 30-0. They have not seen a loss. So That game will be at 6:30, and it will be followed at 8:30 by Ayala High School, who likewise has about a 27-3 record this year. They are being in the CIF SS Section 3A versus Edison, and likewise that will be right after the Chino Hills High School. And then we have one other thing of note. The Chino Hills High School varsity soccer girls team is in the regional playoffs of the CIF Southern Section Division 1, and the playoff schedule will be released on Sunday. So keep these fine young student athletes in your prayers. Pray that they will have a continued successful season and that they will be blessed by the experiences that they have had during this positive and very, very exciting year. It may be the only thing that they ever have really, really exciting in their lives, but I'm sure that they are all being blessed by this. So thank you so much for your time, and go Bulldogs and go Huskies.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Karen Howie, Kurt Hagman, 4th District Supervisor. Thank you. We are now at comments from the audience on items not on the agenda. Pat, are there any requests to speak?
9 requests to speak.
Speakers will be called in the order the request was received. Please listen for your name and be prepared to approach the podium. Any comments on agenda items will be accepted during consideration of that item. Once the board has commenced deliberation on particular issues, speaker cards will not be accepted. The board is very interested in your comments. Please bear in mind that the board typically does not respond to comments during this time on the agenda, as it is reserved specifically for public comments. Individual members may respond during board comments at the end. Ms. Fikes, will you please explain the light system?
Yes. Speakers, you have 3 minutes in which to make your comments. Please begin your comments at the green light. The yellow light indicates you have 30 seconds in which to complete your comments. The red light indicates your time is over. And before you begin your comments, please adjust the microphone as necessary so that you can be clearly heard. And audience members, please refrain from making comments while speakers are at the podium, as it's disrespectful and disruptive.
Speakers, please remember that in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, Bylaws of the Board Meeting Conduct, limit remarks to 3 minutes total for all remarks. If a topic has been covered, please limit remarks to new points. The board would like to remind you that there is an existing board policy for anyone who wishes to file a complaint against a district employee. Please follow that procedure. Listen for your name and be prepared to approach the podium as your name is called. The first speaker is Jack Hibbs, followed by Earl DeVries, followed by Krista Landgraf.
Do I start now? There you go. First of all, I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you for taking a stand in the position that you have that has been given to you, and that we honor that position. We've heard great things tonight because of the great job that you're doing. And one of the things that you've been tasked to do is to do the right thing. And so the encouragement comes this way, that the cost of freedom has always been expensive. Sometimes it's money, most often it's been blood. But in America, we are to defend freedom. We enjoy the freedom of being here tonight. How does that come? Because there are men and women out and beyond defending this gathering and this opportunity. We are a blessed nation. Tonight we heard comments, for example, of a school teacher that has died, and the school is mourning her passing. And that gentleman, that school teacher, mentioned how we need to keep everyone in their prayers. That's an important thing. We will always pray. You cannot pass a law that would stop prayer. As long as there's human emotion, human hurt, and human need, people are going to pray. There'll be no abolishing of prayer. Keeping this in mind, that some of those that would distract you from fighting for this right to prayer regarding invocations will cite money. And I want to encourage you, the community is going to rise and create a war chest to do whatever's necessary to help you continue to not only educate and better our kids, like we just heard from the mayor and from others, that what this school district is doing is awesome, and we want to keep that going. But you can never remove or legislate out the spiritual aspect of an individual. It will never happen. Mao, others, Hitler, Stalin, they've tried. And where are they today? You cannot remove the spiritual aspect of an individual. I also want to encourage you regarding this. Schools like, and I'm sure we've heard of them, Harvard, Princeton, Yale. Did that ring a bell to any of you guys? Do you know that every one of those schools were started by pastors to create seminaries for future leaders. John Harvard was a pastor who started Harvard University. I want you to keep in mind that our founding fathers, from the moment of the Mayflower Compact, cited the need to consult God. I had the great honor of being invited by Congress at Congress's expense. You paid for me to go to Washington, D.C. at Congress's invitation and open up Congress in prayer. Why? Because it's legal, because it's acceptable. This last week, I had a chance to meet with John Ashcroft, former Attorney General of the United States, who was very aware of what's going on here. And he said, this is going to be exciting because you have the Constitution on your side. I want you to stand strong. Our church of 10,000 people are going to mobilize to make sure that happens. As I mentioned, a war chest will be created for whatever cost it might be, but also this. We will see to it that very, very well-equipped and reasonable people will...
I'm sorry, your time has elapsed.
Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Errol DeVries, followed by Christy Landgraf, followed by Peter O'Brien.
Good evening. I thought it was very appropriate with the discussion about prayer that we would pray for one of the teachers that passed away. And I want to encourage you to continue the tradition of prayer. Last time I came and spoke here, I donated $1 that was requested by Pacific Justice Institute to provide you legal services at $1. So we want to encourage that opportunity that they will provide the services for you to help defend your right and opportunity for all of us to pray. And we just thank you for your time tonight.
Krista Landgraf, followed by Peter O'Brien, followed by Peter Patel.
Good evening. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Krista Landgraf, and I'm a 6th grade gate teacher at Country Springs Elementary School. But I'm also on the board of directors for the California Association for the Gifted, a state-run organization for the gifted that's been around for over 60 years. And in that board, I am the educator representative for the entire state. We just held our 54th annual conference last weekend, and I was so excited to hear stated in one of the big halls of the different schools that sent people, that Chino Valley was listed as one of the schools that sent so many of our teachers. There were over 50 teachers and administrators in attendance, which is wonderful. And so this is my kudos to you for doing what's best for teachers. Gifted strategies have been research-based and have been around for a long time. Not only do what we do in California as gifted strategies, they're used throughout the country and throughout the world for what we're doing. So we know what we do is best for students. So it's exciting to see, totally thrilled to see that we have GATE written up in our LCAP, which is phenomenal. A lot of districts in the state are still scrambling around with that. With MTSS out there and the CDE is starting to put that as a state board organization, we're hoping, along with California Association of the Gifted and the Department of Ed, to make sure that our highest achieving students are being met throughout the entire state. So you're doing an excellent job. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot broader base for our GATE program because we have a lot of room for improvement. We also know without a doubt that within our foster youth, within our low income, and especially in our EL populations, we have a huge amount of unidentified gifted students that we need to be targeting those as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Peter O'Brien, followed by Peter Patel, followed by Jessica Angulo.
Good evening, President Cruz, board members, and this evening's attendees. It goes without saying that President Cruz's remarks last July hurt just about everyone who did not espouse his particular brand of conservatism meets half-baked conspiracy theories. However, I would posit that he is merely the sharp tip of the spear that's being thrust at us by Calvary Chapel of Chino Hills. I have said it before and I will say it again. I don't care where a board member worships as long as they do not let their religious views influence board policy. This, unfortunately, is not happening in Chino Valley Unified School District, as evidenced by the board's decision to unsuccessfully contest the Freedom from Religion lawsuit. I'm going to quote Judge Bernal's ruling in this case for a moment. The risk that a student will feel coerced by the board's policy and practice of religious prayer is even higher here than at football games or graduations. The school board possesses an inherently authoritarian position with respect to the students. The board metes out discipline and awards at these meetings and sets school policies that directly and immediately affect the students' lives. He added, regardless of the stated purpose of the prayer resolution, it is clear that the board uses it to bring sectarian prayer and proselytization into public schools through the back door. As a private citizen, you're entitled to your First Amendment rights, but as an elected representative, you are not in church and have responsibilities. Remarks such as President Cruz's and board member Naz can marginalize our children and lead to bullying, a fact that is clearly recognized by Judge Bernal. I stand with the 6 other members of the concerned parents and citizens of CVUSD who spoke before the closed session this afternoon, urging the board not to appeal this lawsuit, an appeal that ultimately and tragically fell on deaf ears. It is especially disappointing that the 3 of our board members who worship at Calvary Chapel of Chino Hills have allowed the rhetoric from Jack Hibbs' activist pulpit influence their decision on appealing the ruling in this case. This is inevitably going to hurt our children, and I ask you, what is Christian about that?
Peter Patel, followed by Jessica Angulo, followed by Rainbow Lee.
Good evening, President Cruz. I think I'm on. Board members, staff, and community here. I'd like to first start to extend my very best guess well wishes to Superintendent Joseph, which I just heard was extremely sick. And that's unusual for him. For the many years he's served, he has never been sick at all. So I request everybody send their best wishes to Joseph. We need him back on his best behavior, let's say. I'm here to talk tonight regarding OPA, Oxford Preparatory Academy. In front of you, you have seen the verbiage as I presented to City of Chino Champion. And if you look at the bottom of it, it does say that this was the first of several letters received in support of Oxford School. Others came from Chino, Ontario, and Eastvale. This school serves a very, very vast number of students, and they do an excellent job. The LCAP, you saw some results in there. I think maybe Oxford may have been that gold school that's out there. And I truly believe that may have been them, because they are a stellar school. The students that they spoke earlier, the ACT group, they too also, the students put extra curriculum and extra duties and all the work they do for their students. I was privileged to talk to a young man outside who I asked him, how are you doing? Good. How was school today? Very good. What's good about school? He said, my school teaches me the best. They have a high standard, and I love the multiple intelligence. And the child must have been 8 years old, 9 years old. It's wonderful to hear those words. I want to share with you that I too have 2 great students that have come out there. And I will say great. They are great because of OPA. One child is still there. Sorry. One child's still there. She's in 8th grade, and she will be going to Ayala next year. I currently have a student at Ayala as well, who's also in the 9th grade. They are both A students, and they were not A students initially when they started at Oxford. But the teaching studies that they had there, they just moved up and up and up. I'm sorry I'm lost for words because I'm quite emotional right now in the fact that this school is outstanding. If you look behind you, your motto says student achievement, safe schools, positive school climate. That's exactly what Oxford Preparatory offers you. 5 years ago, you had the honor of approving them. You are now on a grandfather clause. I ask you to approve them for another 5 years and for the next generation of our future leaders. Thank you.
Jessica Angulo, followed by Rainbow Lee, followed by Daniel Torres. Jessica Angulo. Rainbow Lee.
To the secretary or everything. Give her everything. Sure.
Good evening. I'm here to address one of my big concerns here tonight. We have so many nonprofit organization booster in the district to help our sports team or the student activity in the district wide for the budget. We have been social, but one big concern I have here is that all the contribution we, the parents, all the donors make, we have not received written statement as required by RS article I just passed out to some of you. This is critical information for not just the nonprofit organization, but also for the donors who make donations. So I'm here to urge our board members, our school district to set up some guidelines to enforce this IRS law for all the nonprofit organizations in the district. Number two concern I have is that I'm in the process of conducting a financial audit for one of the booster club in the district. However, all the financial data I reviewed so far, some of them are missing documentation, and some of them not following the general accepted accounting principles. So I'm here to urge our board member to set up some guideline urgently to let our nonprofit organization in the district to follow and to educate them, to help them on the track to know what they are doing. And lastly, our students love school, not just teachers. Let's make this clear. We are a big team. We are here to help our students, our parents, everyone in this big team, not just the money that matters. I can bring a big check like that, but I don't want to do that because I'm here for a patient I have for our school district, for our children, not for a check that cannot be cashed. Thank you.
Daniel Torres, followed by Elena Lacaro, followed by Ronaldo Lizarraga. Daniel Torres, Elena Lacaro,
Good evening. Mr. Daniel Torres was a kindergarten who had to go home and do homework, and he couldn't stay this late.
Aww.
But he did give me the pictures he wanted to give you, so I have to talk to you about his story. I want to share about Daniel kindergarten, Daniel's story. I call it Daniel's journey. His journey began last year at the beginning of the school year when Daniel, as a kindergarten, along with other children, were often walking on the street pavement on Edison. Because right now, there's no sidewalk access. There hasn't been sidewalk access since the beginning of the school year. And so Daniel had to commute or walk almost a 3-mile round trip. And despite this long walk that he had to take with his mother and other children, he would arrive to school tired yet excited he made it to school safe. This is where Daniel's journey becomes entangled with my journey. We both care about safety. His safety concern was about getting to school safe. My journey has been about being safe at school. As you know, I have been asking since last year on securing our school campuses. I'm content that the district, and thank you so much, has shown progress on making our school campus safe. I anxiously await the installation of the hardware to secure our entryway that is set to be this month. Thank you for making school priority, safe priority. And I'm aware that this is part of the LCAP under the school climate. Now the LCAP is not a foreign concept to me anymore or to Daniel, because the integrity of caring district people like Mr. Satura and other people who have reached out to him would go under the LCAP where it says supporting families at risk students and improving parent engagement through the use of community outreach. Thank you for listening and caring for students like Daniel, who want to succeed in school and who are willing to walk more than 1 hour on 105 degrees and with an umbrella and with a stroller, but they are excited to get to school. The only thing that they complain about is when they fear for safety, their safety. I was there when the bus was approved temporarily to pick them up because there's no sidewalks and because of this long journey. I was there in the morning when some parents were even crying because they saw their kids arriving, having to do this long walk. And upon Daniel's kindergarten pictures, which I hope to give to you, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out to these students. Thank you, Mr. Satura. Thank you, Ms. Julie Govan. Thank you so much because you have made them a priority. And that's what its success is. And I wish he would be here. He said he was going to come back. He was asleep, but he said he was going to come back. So thank you for having me tonight.
Ronaldo Lizarraga Angulo.
Hello, good evening, board members, President Cruz, and cabinet members. As some of you may know, I'm Ronaldo Lizarraga, and I'm a junior at Don Lugo High School. And as some of you may have predicted, I am here to express my feelings about the lawsuit filed against the school district from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Now, this lawsuit was filed, I believe, in November of 2013. Yes. Well, I am a student that is in favor of this lawsuit just because he is not content with having his civil liberties broken or violated. And so, as you may imagine, a couple of weeks ago, when I heard about the ruling by Judge Bernal, I was ecstatic. Not so much ecstatic anymore this night. And that would be because what the school board is basically doing is they are squandering funds that are supposed to go towards students and teachers and other district employees, infrastructure, all of that, for their own ventures, basically. And I am not too content with that as a student of this district. I would just like to say that there are other priorities. We could fix our infrastructure. We could hire more teachers. We could do so much better things. But no, we continue to fight this battle in court. Now, $200,000 is what the district was charged to pay as legal fees. Yes, it's a sizable amount. But I would rather prefer to pay those $200,000 instead of paying $500,000, $1 million, because we can't keep squandering these student funds. It is irresponsible and it is immoral. Thank you very much.
We will take a 5-minute break.
I'm on my last call.
2 hours doing things that I have already done.
Oh, yeah. Are these all from the same kid who did all this artwork?
Well, I was because they went from very colorful to then one of them is just kind of.
Well, it's a different day.
He got tired. He thought he was going to have to do it for all of us.
We're now at changes and deletions. Pat, is there any?
The following changes are on the agenda. Item 3A1, minutes under Irene Hernandez Blair's comments. Last sentence, strike the words Cal Aero after physical education. Item 3B2, business services, page 20, fundraising activities under Dickey Elementary School, add PTO readathon, March 7th. through March 31st, 2016. Item 4C2, Human Resources. This item is deleted from the agenda.
We are now at action items. Please announce the first item.
Item 2A1, California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly Election 2016.
Recommend the Board of Education to vote for no more than 7 candidates to the California School Board Association Delegates Assembly Subregion 16-B. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blair, second Mr. Nall. Comments, questions, and discussion? Ms. Roscoe.
Okay, we're going to check our mic. I would like to recommend that we vote for the incumbents because I'm very familiar with them. I've worked with them, and their heart is in the right place. I don't know the other 2 individuals, and so I couldn't in good heart recommend somebody that I really don't know. So I'd like to move that we vote for the 6 incumbents. Hello?
So, do we need a second for the?
You already did.
We already
Those
did.
comments, questions.
Okay.
Not from the board.
So it's just from Barbara Dew on down.
Yes, the ones with the asterisks.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? 5-0 vote.
Item 2B1, compensation increase for fully credentialed substitute teachers who teach within their content area during summer school.
Recommend the Board of Education to approve a compensation increase for fully credentialed substitute teachers who teach within their content area during summer school. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Naw, second.
Second.
Ms. Orozco. Comments, questions, and discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. That concludes the action items. We're now at consent. Pat, are there any speakers?
None.
Ms. Blair?
No pools.
Ms. Fikes?
3E2, page 44. And I also have a concern about an information item, but I don't include that at this time, correct?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Na?
I have no polls.
Ms. Orozco?
None.
And I don't have any. For the remainder of the consent items, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Blair?
Second.
Mr. Na? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Item 3E2, page 44. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blair? Mr. Na? Comments, questions, and discussion?
I'm looking at, on page 44, the top curriculum instruction innovation support item, which is CIIS 1516081 ESL for Asia. And I did communicate with Dr. Enfield earlier, and he said this is about the F1 students and the Asia company that provides support for our employees to visit China. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so my question is, even though it says no cost to district, we're sending people, if we approve this, we are approving sending people to China,
Yes, that would be correct.
this March to June.
No, it's not from March to June. It's I think the trip is in March and they come back in April. I think it's about 12 days.
But it's this March?
Yes, it's at the end of March, I think, going into spring break.
Okay, so who gets to go?
There are a number of teachers and administration that will be attending, but the list is not finalized yet.
Okay, I just am wondering how that information was gotten out to our teachers, because I do think there is a cost to the district if they miss any school days. And that's just, you know, we've lost our workforce. But, so I'm concerned about how they were selected.
They were selected from the school sites that had the B1 students who attended this school year, and we also had a number of teachers who came to our school district from China who spent over 3 weeks here. And some of the teachers worked with them and built up a relationship that we're going to go back to China and visit some of the schools with them. So that's how some of the teachers were selected as part of that. And some of the administrators who participate are going back there to make a connection for the recruiting of the F1 and B1 students, because part of it is, as we go there, the schools will send more people when they see a commitment from a district that brings more administration, because they see that they're serious when they bring a number of people there. So that's the idea behind it.
And I understand that, and I even understand that they'd want to see the same person again. But my concern is if we keep sending the same person again, especially if it's somebody from here at the district office, you know, what is the benefit to the district of that? I mean, are they going to come and talk to the teachers who are eventually going to have these students? Are they going to share that experience? Because I haven't seen that so far.
Okay. Well, the only individual that is going from last year, as you remember, Dr. Carr and myself attended, and this year Dr. Carr will be attending. I will not. Everybody else that is going would be their first time. The plan isn't always to bring the same people every time. It's just a different group of people every time that go back there. And some of that is to look at the different educational programs that they have there. Is part of that experience. And again, it's partly recruiting, it's partly making connections for sister schools. We're looking at potentially, do we want to do a dual language school? And so as part of that, we've been looking at a Mandarin. So there's connections that we would make for the curriculum piece of it. And then another part of it is we are going to be planning on meeting with some government officials in their education department to look at possibly bringing a program into our district that could bring anywhere from $30,000 to maybe $300,000 to promote from the Chinese government to promote the Chinese culture for our district. So there's a number of opportunities for us in that trip. And I know it does take our staff away during our time of the year when our students are here. But again, they run kind of the same calendar as we do, that if we were to go during the summer, their schools aren't in summer session like ours are.
Thank you.
Mr. Na.
I think it's a great idea. We're sending our staffs and teachers. I think there are other school districts that have been doing it for now quite a few years, as well as some of our charter schools too. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you, Dr. Enfield.
Yeah, and also it's a great idea knowing that the American experience when they come, you know, they learn how to become an American. So that's awesome. Okay. Hearing nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
1.
4-1. Pardon me. 4-1. Next item, informational. Ms. Fikes.
Okay, 4B1 is my question, which, I didn't write down the page, so.
101.
Is it 101, Ms. Orozco?
That's 4B1, yes.
Okay. Correct. And actually, well, it's about residency of the F1 visa students, that we are going to allow them to live outside our school district boundaries and yet attend in our schools. My experience with that, and I know I've shared this with Dr. Enfield, was that becomes a difficult thing for transportation, for arriving to school on time, for us having contact with those parents. And I understand why some families recruited might not be in our school district, but it's of concern to me.
Mr. Na.
Well, we have students that live outside of our district that still attends our school district, and so is other charter schools. And I think we need to actively recruit and support the students that are coming from out of our district.
Thank you. Nothing further. We are now at board member and communications. Ms. Hernandez-Blair?
I attended the School Smarts Parent Academy at Newman Elementary School, which was facilitated by Flory Welsh, who is an awesomely involved parent and a wonderful advocate of public education. Congratulations to the parents who took the time to gain the skills necessary for increased involvement in their child's quality public education. And Ms. Welsh is here. Kudos to you for the awesome job you did. I met with parents and administrators of Oxford Preparatory Academy on Monday. I have also met with parents of students from throughout our district. I am conducting my own research. I am taking all input into consideration. I want to thank you all for your thoughts, emails, phone calls. Every view is taken into consideration. So I thank you all for your time. Quickly, there are a lot of great things happening at our junior high schools. March Madness basketball tournaments of our girl and boys teams took place this past week at Woodcrest Junior High School. Semifinals will be on March 8th and 9th, with the championship game on March 10th. Mayor Bennett took all the thunder from the school board regarding our Chino High School team, so I won't repeat that, but now I'm going to go to his meetings and, you know, share the highlights of Chino Hill stuff, since he's coming here and taking our thunder. I want to share that Townsend Junior High School song leaders are now the United Spirit Association Large Song Palm National Champions. Congratulations to the talented members of this squad. Many of our schools had Dr. Seuss Week, Read Across America events. One such example is the Long Week events at Howard Cattle Elementary School. They had a readathon, which will provide prizes to the top readers. Their event ends tomorrow with lunch on the lawn while reading a favorite book. Good job to all of our dedicated readers throughout Chino Valley Unified. I have a question for Dr. Enfeld before I close. Or to Ms. Beamer, yeah, she's still here. How close are we to increasing the bandwidth in order to upload board meetings onto Chino Valley Unified's website?
Because I'm such a techie person, I will hand that off to Bev Beamer.
Good evening, Mr. Hernandez-Blair. We're actually getting a lot closer. Our data center is coming right along. I'm very excited. We actually have installed some new audiovisual equipment just in the last week. So I'm going to be very conservative and say we're hoping by the end of April.
Okay.
Our bandwidth has had some struggles in the last week. I would be remiss at not admitting that, but I want to make sure that I clarify what that means. It is not our issue inside this district. It is actually outside of this district as we meet up with Chafee and then go on to what we call the scenic highway. So if I can take about 1 minute, Dr. Enfield, and just clarify. If I give you an analogy that is not too techy, we have increased our bandwidth up to 5 gigabytes coming out of this district going out to Chafee, which is like saying that we have moved from a 1-lane on-ramp to a 5-lane on-ramp. However, if the freeway is backed up, you can make the on-ramp as large as you would like. The freeway not moving is not going to allow those 5-fold cars on that freeway, on that on-ramp, to join that freeway. Unfortunately, what happened on Tuesday morning at 10:24 is when Chino Valley was the first one that went up to 5 gigabytes, Chafee went up to 5 gigabytes, Arupa went up to 5 gigabytes, Colton, we're all sort of very competitive people. And we actually spiked the scenic highway and actually shut it down in Ontario. So,
darn.
So the good news is it's our issue as a collective. But I've been in communication not only with county folks, we actually have turned on additional monitoring systems in the back room. We actually had about a 90-minute conversation with the K-12 high-speed network folks up in Sacramento to explain to them that we need bigger pipes coming in. So we will be easy to do it. The key is going to be we can load the video for the board meetings. We will have to probably restrict access until the K-12 high-speed network addresses their freeway size within educational hours.
Okay.
Because what happens is if someone were to go and access that bandwidth off of our site at the same time that our students are trying to access their laptops, the computers, take the
right.
state testing, go on our Wi-Fi, everybody is fighting over that same 5 gig pipe.
Right. Okay. Well, April is closer than we were 3 years ago, so I'm excited. Thank you for all you're doing.
The team, I'm very blessed to be with a team that is very passionate about education. And
Right.
so even though they're behind the scenes, there's 25 very wonderful individuals working there.
Thank you. And all 25. Thank you much. And I just want to end with wishing Mrs. Fikes and Mr. Joseph get well soon. Please keep the germs down there. Yeah, Mr. Na, you're contracting the cooties. With that, good night.
Thank you. Mr. Na?
We had a student government day. I think it was one of the best time I ever had with all these students with representing our school board and the staff members. And most amazing moment for me was when a girl named Prescott at Chino High School, when she said that how Mrs. Orozco really helped her, really kindness in detail about the job description as a school board member. She was highly impressed. And she was also inspired by Mr. Cruz's speech. And she said, I want to get involved now. And so kudos for Mrs. Orozco and Mr. Cruz. You're planting seeds for our future, and that's a great thing. Kids, as the animals, even my dogs, they know who loves animals, who doesn't. The kids know who really cares about themselves and about them and themselves. And it really, in today's age, we need to do more, be involved with kids in a personal level and really encourage them and really care for them. And that's what it takes to be a great educators. And as we have many in our boardroom today, I still remember our son attending your classrooms at Rhodes in the past, and he's doing really well in college, and he will never ever forget what you guys have done to his life. And I'm sure this is what kids need the most when we put the kids priority first as the kids. I have gone to Ayala choir presentation. It was amazing. I thanked the teacher several times after that presentation. Kids were disciplined. They had the pride and responsibility. And wow, the parents, and they were so happy. And they wanted to know if one of my kids was in the choir program. I said, no, but these are all mine. So thank you for music teachers and staffs at Ayala bring us such a great show. And on a sad note, Glad Mead Elementary School, I'm heartbroken about losing one teacher. There are actually two teachers that were in my thoughts every single day. And Susan Daniels, teachers had a big fundraiser at a pizza place, and I was there almost closing hour because I had to attend different meetings. And clerks told me that they had many teachers coming and supporting this teacher. So I'll continue to support her as our teachers do, because you guys are mine as well. And I just love the check. I said that was a brilliant idea, and how truth that is. The extra hours that was counted, that's the truth. So thank you. Rhodes elementary school, we have recently lost fourth grader student named Dejan Voris. I had seen fourth grader, but had a problem with the breathing, and I think that was a long battle. He's got a baby face here, and he's smiling, and thank you for teachers being there for the family and principal. And surprisingly, I found our staff members at Student Services, and the parents were so happy to see that we do care about everyone when it involves children. And I think you guys are the ambassador for our school when you do care for our students. And lastly, Dr. Enfield, our adult school, had a great WASC accreditation recently. I'd like to see them maybe being invited, their leadership team, in a short future. And
yeah, in talking with Mr. Hampton, we were going to bring a board presentation because there's a number of things we want to bring forward regarding the adult school.
Yeah, there's so many great things that are happening, and I love you all. That'll be my comment tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Fikes?
Student Government Day was a great day. I especially want to thank Julie Gobin and Brenda Dunkel for all of their work on that, but also all of the site administrators and district administrators who gave up their time to create a great experience for our kids. I think it was a wonderful experience, so I thank you. The basketball game, Saturday night, I have the same kind of comment. I got in line at Chino Hills High School on Tuesday at 4:30 and 3:30, and there was a huge line, and there were all these people still working, and so we focus a lot on the athletes who get through, and it's wonderful for them, but talk about it takes a village. It takes everybody to put these kinds of activities together. Secretaries are there, custodians are there, teachers are there, coaches are there, parents are there. It's a huge event. And so I thank the staffs at Ayala and at Chino Hills High School for all they're doing to make this a successful event on Saturday night. I'm so excited to tell you, AVID in our school district is overseen by RIMS AVID, and that stands for Riverside, Inyo, Mono, and San Bernardino counties, so 4 counties. And every year they have a write-off. Now, I was the AVID teacher at Canyon Hills, and I was an English teacher at Canyon Hills, and so I would have thought maybe one of my students would have won this contest, but never in 7 years did they ever win. But they won this year. There is an 8th grade girl at Canyon Hills Junior High School. Her name is Bella Pettengill. She's at the University of Redlands tonight, being recognized as the outstanding 8th grader in 5 counties. It's a big deal, 142 schools. I really didn't ever figure out how to win it, so kudos to Jackie Heacock and the staff at Canyon Hills Junior High School. That's really a very, very big deal. Mrs. Blair indicated we've gotten lots of letters, and I also am very appreciative of all viewpoints, but I want to caution you that if you send us letters anonymously, or if you send me letters anonymously, I can't give them any credence. I don't know who wrote them. They could all come from the same person. There's just so much that's questionable about it. And I understand why some people would want to remain anonymous, but you just need to know that we can't weigh anonymous letters. And lastly, on Student Government Day here, one of my former students was talking to me about being the valedictorian at Ayala. I'm very proud of him. However, I'm very concerned about the system that we use to select valedictorian. Not that he isn't deserving, he's very deserving. But I'm hopeful that we can tackle this issue and talk about it from the board's perspective. And that's my comments for this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Orozco?
Thank you. I'm going to be very brief. Student Government Day was great. I actually had the opportunity to speak with Prescott, as Mr. Naw indicated. She's from Chino High School and is eagerly awaiting word from Harvard, as that's where she applied to. And she did become very interested in getting more involved, and so she's actually looking to internship with local, I hate calling them politicians, but but with someone in office. And so great event. Thank you to everyone who put that on, Julie and Brenda and everyone else. And finally, I had the opportunity to travel to Sacramento with SANDAB's executive board actually, and we had the opportunity to meet with several individuals. We met with the program budget manager of education, deputy legislative secretary, educational consultant, some senators and assemblymen, and there was 3 issues that we tackled and with each person. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see some at least conversations about those issues. 2 main issues that seem to dominate the conversations. One was the early ed block grant proposal that's out there, and then the other one was the CalSTRS and PERS issue that is going to bring what we started at 8% and then go to 19%. And so I had the ability to share Sandra's information with everyone there. And I got to tell you that actually some of the board members who traveled with us weren't aware of what it was going to do to their district, and actually went back to their superintendents and asked them for the information. And so now I understand that the county superintendent asked for your data as well to share with other people. And so I'm hopeful that it generates some conversation about that. And with that, I'll just say goodnight.
Thank you. I participated in the Student Government Day last week, and what an experience for our young adults experiencing a day of community governance. These students prove that they are indeed precious to our community and to the future of America and service to others. I also attended the Science Fair. Many of our students will advance to the RIM Science and Engineer Fair in early April after receiving trophies at the District Science Fair on February 24th. All students who made it to the district level competition received some level of recognition: white ribbon medals, red ribbon medals, blue ribbon medals, and trophies. The RIM Science and Engineer Fair will be held April 5th at the Bournes Technology Center at 7 o'clock in Riverside. I also attended the father and daughter dance. It was awesome. The event theme was the 50s. Most of the dads were up and dancing away with their daughters, and the young girls so proud of their dates for the evening. The PTO and staff made the event possible with their hard work. Kudos to each and every one of them. I also attended the International Day at OPA. Mr. Knoll was there as well. The food was excellent. All types of food. Actually, some of it was really good. Some of it was really good. And finally, let's have a silence moment for our loved ones that passed away recently. Thank you. We adjourn at 9:40.